Question was dealt with. Question number 11, Nicky Wagner. Order. Order. Now, tensions are high on when an issue like this arises. I accept that, but I do ask members, please, to respect this House. Order. I'm on my feet. Nicky Wagner, question number 11.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Minister of Housing, what progress has Housing New Zealand made in assessing and fixing state houses that have been damaged by the Canterbury earthquake?
The Honourable Phil Heatley.
Mr. Speaker, since the earthquake, Housing New Zealand has investigated 6,000 of its properties and carried out 2,000 interim repairs. In fact, almost 4,000 state houses were damaged, 38 have major structural damage and 183 require land remediation. Of the 4,000 houses damaged, Mr. Speaker, contractors are completing about 100 permanent repairs a week on the 1,500 properties, so they should be finished about March next year. Of the 2,500 remaining that have got more serious work required, that should be complete within 12 months. So progress is very, very good indeed.
Nicky Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Minister of Housing, how has Housing New Zealand assisted tenants whose properties have been significantly damaged by the earthquake?
The Honourable Phil Heatley.
Mr. Speaker, tenants whose homes are not safe to remain in due to structural or health and safety reasons have all been relocated to alternative accommodation. Tenants who opted to stay in their homes but were suffering some sort of significant inconvenience due to unreliable essential services or things like that have had their rent halved. So if they choose to stay and there's no health and safety issues, they're only paying half rent at this stage. Housing New Zealand is actively working with them to find interim measures such as installing temporary septic tanks and that type of thing to improve their living conditions. So Housing New Zealand is working very well with its tenant base.
Te ora roa flavel.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Speaker. Kia ora tātou. To the Minister, is the Minister aware that one of the 4 safe houses of the Battered Women's Trust in Christchurch, which suffered extensive damage to the piles of the house during the earthquake, will not be replaced, as the local level community housing manager has told them that the home that was being looked at for their relocation will not go forward, as they will not replace a broken window and put up a fence or a gate. And what action can be taken to ensure there is sufficient emergency housing to respond to the increased levels of domestic violence in Christchurch?
Honourable Phil Heatley.
Mr. Speaker, I think the member will be delighted to know that the Women's Refuge will be moving into a new home in the weekend, and they're delighted to be doing that, and I'm delighted that that is able to happen.
Brendon Burns.
Supplementary question. What assurance can the Minister provide to residents in areas like Richmond and Avonside, Dallington and Kaiapoi, where there are ongoing concerns among Housing New Zealand tenants for their security of tenure, where they've already been relocated to temporary accommodation because of uninhabitable homes, and for those still occupying homes but who may have to move out to allow repairs to be made?
The Honourable Phil Heatley.
Well, Mr. Speaker, tenants who need to move out of houses because repairs need to be made need to move out of their houses because repairs need to be made. Housing New Zealand will be providing accommodation for it. When repairs are be made, they will be able to move back into their houses.
Te roa flavel.
To the Minister, on the bigger picture, as a national landlord, what plan is in place to deal with the social impact of a disaster on social housing?
Mr. Speaker, Housing New Zealand has an excellent system in place to deal with impacts on social housing, such as the civil defence situation which happened with the Canterbury earthquake, and as I outlined in the answer to my primary question, you can see how that works through in practice, working with its tenants, relocating them, getting repairs up and running as soon as possible, making sure that houses are fixed and then tenants are moved back into their home in due course.
Question number 12, Stuart Nash.
Thank you. To the